She was young, vibrant, and loved by thousands. Yet her life ended in cold blood. Ariela Lancosta Mejia Polano was more than a name. She was a rising star caught in the deadly shadow of 6ix9ine. What really happened behind the headlines? Tonight, we reveal the chilling truth of betrayal, violence, and a snitch whose choices cost lives. You think you know the story? Think again. 6ix9ine has now been sentenced in connection to the murder of his girlfriend, Ariela Lancosta Mejia Polano. But beneath the headlines, the story is far more chilling. From her shocking execution on a New York highway to the federal investigation, revealing how Tekashi's notorious snitching past ignited the chain of events. The truth is darker than anyone could imagine. Here's the full breakdown. Bloodstains mark the past of Daniel Hernandez, better known as Tekashi 6ix9ine. Many assumed he was untouchable. Protected by his federal cooperation deal, untouchable by both law and the streets. Yet the streets do not forget, and they do not forgive. The consequences of his actions finally caught up in the most tragic way when Ariela Lancosta Mejia Polano, only 33 years old, was found fatally shot inside her Mercedes. On August 17, 2025, Ariela was more than a name or a statistic. Was vibrant, full of life, and unapologetically proud of her Dominican roots, with nearly 700,000 social media followers tracking her every move. She had carved out a space in the public eye as a rising star, a woman whose confidence and charisma demanded attention. Her online presence reflected a life many envied: late-night celebrations, luxury bottles, and appearances at New York's hottest venues like Icon and Opus Lounge. She embraced the city's energy, the nightlife, and the glow of being young and fearless. In any room, Ariela stood out effortlessly. People couldn't help but notice her sway of her presence, the sparkle in her smile, and the aura of someone who seemed untouchable, even as danger lurked close. She was living a life many dream of but few truly attain: admired, influential, and deeply connected to the pulse of New York City's social scene. But underneath the glamour and the lights, Ariela was marked by her association with Tekashi 6ix9ine. Her connection to him, even if personal and private, made her a target in a world where loyalty, betrayal, and survival collide violently. The Mercedes where she met her end, once a symbol of her success, became the setting for her last moments. A chilling reminder that proximity to a figure like Daniel Hernandez can carry deadly consequences. Her story is not just tragedy, it is a warning. In the world 6ix9ine inhabits, the price of association is often paid in blood, and for Ariela, that price was ultimately fatal. Yet, what Ariela could not foresee was that being romantically involved with one of hip-hop's most reviled snitches would put her directly in harm's way. Authorities confirmed that her death was a targeted hit, no accident, no stray bullets. Ariela, a mother and social media star, was executed, and the brutality of her murder left the city in shock. Her lifeless body was discovered early Sunday morning, north of the Bronx, slumped behind the wheel of her vehicle. From the moment authorities arrived, it was clear this was no random act of violence. Investigators immediately determined that Ariela Lancosta Mejia Polano had been specifically targeted. Yet even this stark fact only scratches the surface of a story far darker and more complex than most realize. Ariela had recently appeared prominently in 6ix9ine's 2023 WAP music video, a role that, knowingly or not, placed her squarely in the crosshairs of anyone holding a grudge against the controversial rapper. What may have seemed like a glamorous career opportunity, or even a personal honor, effectively painted a target on her back. Sources indicate that her connection to Daniel Hernandez extended beyond a mere professional collaboration. Their bond was reportedly romantic, hinting at a closeness that carried both emotional intensity and, tragically, extreme danger. In these streets, affiliation can be deadly. Loyalty, trust, and affection are often irrelevant when violence and revenge dictate outcomes. Ariela's proximity to 6ix9ine, whether as a partner, friend, or collaborator, made her vulnerable in ways that the public may not fully comprehend. The lines between personal choice and circumstantial peril blur when someone becomes entangled with a figure whose life has been defined by betrayal, informant status, and high-profile conflicts. The implications of her death extend beyond one person's loss. They speak to a recurring pattern of destruction surrounding 6ix9ine. Individuals connected to him, women, friends, and associates, often find themselves caught in the crossfire of his choices, marked by association rather than guilt. Ariela's story is a stark reminder that in this world, charm and ambition are no protection. Her life, celebrated online and in social circles, ended abruptly in a moment that underscores a grim reality. When you are connected to Daniel Hernandez, danger is never far behind, and the consequences can be deadly. Tekashi expressed public grief in a series of Instagram posts, calling her his sister and praising her as a queen of New York. His words revealed profound love and loss. But in his world, love comes at a deadly cost. Ariella's brushes with danger were not new. Back in 2018, she was reportedly kidnapped by 9 Gangsta Blood members, who mistakenly believed she was involved with him. This tragic timeline highlights just how perilous life can be when intertwined with Tekashi 6ix9ine's turbulent legacy. Years ago, Ariella nearly lost her life simply because she resembled someone linked to Tekashi 69. Yet instead of stepping back after that close call, she became even more entangled in his world. In the streets, memory is relentless and forgiveness rare. When 6ix9ine testified against the 9 Gangster Bloods in 2019, he did more than betray his crew. He placed everyone connected to him directly in danger. The hood does not differentiate between a snitch and the people who care about him. In that world, guilt by association is often a death sentence. Westchester County Police were clear. This was a targeted killing, not a random act of violence. Ariella was found slumped behind the wheel of her luxury Mercedes, the same car she had proudly displayed to her nearly 700,000 followers. Just months earlier, the tragedy is laced with bitter irony. She celebrated her success online, unaware that her posts effectively revealed her whereabouts to killers who had been patiently waiting. Social media erupted with speculation, connecting her death directly to Tekashi's cooperation with authorities. Fans and users flooded platforms with details of her murder, calling it a calculated hit. Some rumors suggest that her boyfriend, not a Cartier, may have been the true target, as he was allegedly snitching himself. If that is true, Ariella became an innocent casualty caught in a deadly crossfire between multiple informants. The tributes from her workplaces reflect the loss of a genuinely loved woman. Icon New York posted, "Today we lost our shining star. We still cannot believe it. You were our smile, our happiness. We love you and we will miss you forever." Temporarily closing in respect. These messages came from people whose lives she brightened, not corporate obligation. Even Cardi B paid her respects on social media, writing, "Rest in peace, Dominican pretty." When your death garners attention from A-list stars, it signals the impact your life had beyond the streets. A grim, cautionary tale of the deadly cost of being near a rat. The investigation itself underscores the gravity of the situation. Local, state and federal agencies are all involved, indicating this was far from a typical street dispute. It points to a far larger and more dangerous network of consequences. The haunting contrast is in Ariella's final post. She shared feelings of happiness and gratitude, oblivious to the bullets that were already aimed at her. A woman celebrating life, unaware that her association with Tekashi 6ix9ine had signed her death warrant. Ariella's rise from bartender to social media star was marked by beauty, personality, and relentless hustle. She deserved to thrive, yet Tekashi's toxic influence ended her journey. Her death is not isolated. It is part of a disturbing pattern. From Brooklyn streets to Manhattan nightclubs, 6ix9ine's cooperation with authorities has left a trail of destruction, broken lives, and bodies in its wake. Ariella Lancosta Mejia Polano is the latest casualty in a war set in motion when Daniel Hernandez chose his freedom over everyone else's safety. Before Ariella, there was Sarah Molina, the mother of his child, who first experienced the full, devastating force of Hernandez's choices. Ariella is now the newest name in 6ix9ine's grim history, a stark reminder of the deadly cost of loyalty to a snitch. If you want to understand how 6ix9ine's path leaves destruction in the lives of the women closest to him, Sarah Molina's story is the blueprint. She met Daniel Hernandez around 2011 or 2012 when she was just 15 or 16, and he was 18. This was not teenage puppy love. It was the start of a 7-year nightmare that would leave a child caught in the middle and a woman permanently scarred. Sarah helped craft the very persona that would later terrorize her life. She was the one at a Williamsburg salon in 2013, helping him dye his hair those iconic rainbow colors. Unwittingly, she was nurturing the very monster that would later inflict relentless trauma upon her. The abuse started early and never stopped. Sarah documented countless instances of physical and sexual violence throughout their relationship, often fueled by his paranoia, jealousy, and insecurities. But this was not ordinary domestic abuse. it was calculated, systematic torment, designed to break her spirit and trap her in a world she could not escape. One of the most horrifying incidents occurred during a trip to Dubai. According to Sarah, 6ix9ine accused her of infidelity and then brutally attacked her for 2 straight hours. She described punches that left her bleeding, blood-stained pillowcases, and facial swelling so severe she could barely open her eyes. The violence escalated, to kicking her, pressing a pillow over her face, choking her unconscious, and forcing sexual acts the next morning. When she awoke, she bore 2 black eyes, a purple-black ear, and bruises across her arms and back. This was not a fleeting moment of rage, it was deliberate, sustained cruelty. And the psychological torment was equally harrowing. Daniel Hernandez admitted to the abuse multiple times. Even in court documents during his 2019 cooperation agreement with federal authorities. In a 2020 New York Times interview, he confessed, "We did have physical fights. It's the worst thing ever. But I'm not going to lie. I did it. I admit it, and I apologize." Yet, despite these admissions, celebrity culture enabled him to continue his career, record deals intact, while leaving a trail of broken women in his wake. Sarah's experiences revealed just how far-reaching his recklessness extended. One night, around 3 a.m., she received frantic calls from him demanding their daughter's whereabouts and instructing her to bring down thousands of dollars worth of jewelry. Unbeknownst to her, she became an unwilling participant in a gang extortion. His own 9 gang members, led by Anthony Harv Ellison, had kidnapped him and forced her to hand over $365,000 in jewelry while her infant daughter slept upstairs. Even after their relationship ended, the abuse continued in more subtle, yet equally damaging ways. Sarah accused him of neglecting his daughter, spending lavishly on new girlfriends while Soraya went without. By 2021, she filed for child support, highlighting his sociopathic neglect pattern of using, destroying, and discarding women when convenient. Sarah's reflections capture the full scope of his manipulations. She lost her sense of self, her trust in her own judgment, and her identity. From their first encounter in 2011-2012, to helping birth the Tekashi persona in 2013, to giving birth to their daughter in 2015, her timeline reads as a tragic case study in abuse, manipulation, and domestic terror. The Dubai beating left Sarah with 2 black eyes and a deep fear for her life. By November 2018, her relationship with 6ix9ine finally ended, coinciding with his arrest. Yet even now, the ongoing battles over child support and custody continue to reveal the ripple effects of his recklessness. What makes Sarah's story even more tragic is that she truly loved him. She supported his music career, stood by him through his transformation, and believed that beneath the rainbow hair and tattoos, he was still the Danny she had fallen for. This is the hallmark of an abuse victim, making excuses for the abuser. Even while cataloging the pain inflicted, the public unraveling of their relationship exposes 6ix9ine's complete lack of shame or accountability. As late as 2023, Sarah still called his gym attack embarrassing for their daughter, illustrating how his reckless behavior continues to harm the people closest to him. Sarah, Melina's story is not just one woman surviving domestic violence, it is a warning of what happens to anyone who gets close to 6ix9ine. The pattern is consistent: initial charm and attention, followed by control, isolation, escalating violence, psychological torture, and ultimately, abandonment and public humiliation. Sarah survived, barely. Ariella Polano did not get that chance. She fell victim to the full force of the storm. The most chilling fact: Sarah endured this abuse years before 6ix9ine became a federal informant. If he was capable of such calculated manipulation and violence as a struggling SoundCloud rapper, imagine the damage once he had fame, money, and federal protection backing him. Sarah experienced the monster in its early form. Ariella encountered it at full strength and it proved lethal. The fall of Daniel Hernandez was inevitable. Every empire built on lies eventually collapses, and his house of cards crumbled when federal agents raided his home on November 18, 2018. But his downfall was not only about lost money or fame, it was about becoming hip-hop's most despised figure and turning everyone around him into potential targets. Bodies had been dropping long before Ariella, and they have not stopped. The federal racketeering case that destroyed his career was built on his own admissions: violence, criminality, and active participation in armed robberies, attempted murders, and drug trafficking. He funded the 9 gangster bloods with hundreds of thousands from his music earnings, financing a criminal enterprise. When faced with a potential 47-year sentence, he flipped without hesitation. In his own words, "Imagine I would have stood tall, right? Kept it real. Did the 47 years? Well, you wouldn't be on the podcast. That's for sure." His selfishness is staggering. He justified betraying lives and street codes simply to save himself and maintain publicity. His cooperation led to convictions for high-ranking gang members, including Anthony Harv Ellison 24 years, Algeria, Nuke Mek 17 years, and his manager, Kano Shadi Jordan, 15 years. These were real lives destroyed because he valued freedom over loyalty. Even worse, 6ix9ine relished his betrayal. He admitted immediately upon incarceration that he would snitch. The no-snitching code meant nothing to him. He never had principles to begin with. The list of people he implicated reads like a hip-hop who's who. From false claims about Cardi B and Jim Jones to ordering a $20,000 hit on Chief Keef, which led to Kent Audeby Mackenzie's conviction. His supposed street credibility was a lie. 6ix9ine admitted he was never truly a blood, only a civilian with money who bought protection. Yet his fake persona cost real people their freedom when he revealed everything to save himself. The fallout created a new cultural phenomenon, the famous snitch. Hip-hop legends like Snoop Dogg, Meek Mill, and Future publicly condemned him, declaring he had no place in the culture. But 6ix9ine did not accept this exile quietly. He doubled down, releasing music that celebrated his snitching and mocked former associates. "I don't care if I'm held accountable for what I did. Yes, I snitched and I did it proudly," he said. This level of shamelessness was unprecedented, leaving a permanent scar on hip-hop culture and cementing his reputation as the most reviled figure in the industry. A snitch who refused to fade into the shadows, 6ix9ine instead chose to remain in the spotlight, releasing music, flaunting fame, and dragging everyone around him into danger simply by association. The violent incidents following his release proved that cooperation with federal authorities came with permanent enemies. In March 2023, he was violently attacked in a Florida gym sauna by members of the Latin Kings, sustaining injuries severe enough that he sued LA Fitness for $1 million in negligence. Even 50 Cent attempted to warn him, but 6ix9ine ignored reason. His ego and hunger for attention repeatedly overpowered even basic survival instincts. Unauthorized travel led to multiple probation violations, including a 2024 arrest for failed drug tests and a trip to Las Vegas. Without permission, his enemies proved they had reached beyond borders. In October 2023, he was arrested in the Dominican Republic for assault, followed by domestic violence charges in January 2024 involving his then-girlfriend. Yelin Lama's viral. The same destructive pattern that ruined Sarah Molina's life kept repeating with every woman who came near him. Being near 6ix9ine is a death sentence waiting to be executed. Federal agencies' involvement highlights that this is more than a local crime. It is a consequence of his cooperation agreement and the dangerous web he has spun. As of August 2025, Daniel Hernandez remains a walking target, surrounded by destroyed lives and fatalities. His snitching granted temporary freedom from prison, but it sentenced him to a lifetime of paranoia, knowing everyone who loves him risks becoming collateral damage. Sarah Molina survived his abuse through sheer strength and determination. Ariela Lancosta Mejia Polano was not so fortunate. The question is not if more will die because of 6ix9ine's choices, is how many lives will fall before his enemies finally claim their revenge. In the streets, this story does not end with 6ix9ine living happily ever after. The blood on his hands keeps accumulating, and eventually, it may be his own.